It's no secret that there are tons of cursed objects all over the continent. However, there is definitely an extra layer of creepy added on when the objects in question are hidden from the public, or worse, missing entirely. Welcome back to Most Amazing Guys. I'm your host Kennedy, and today we are counting down the top 10 cursed objects hidden in North America scientists fear you will find. Let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is a portrait of Delphine Lalaurie. Back in 1997, the residents of the apartment building that was once where Madame Delphine Lalaurie's torture chamber stood decided to reach out to local artist Riccardo Pustanio for a beautiful painting of the previous owner, the infamous Madame Lalaurie. Now, I'll start off by saying that she seems like a bad choice of someone to commemorate, given that there are tons of other local celebrities in New Orleans, but I guess that's beside the point. According to residents, it didn't take long before they began to feel her presence glooming in the halls, with some residents claiming they were haunted by her ghost at night, or that they would hear her whispering to them through the art. Soon enough, things got so terrifying that they all decided it would be best to take down the painting and return it back to the painter. However, nowadays it is no longer with Riccardo, but apparently a part of a private collection, and the new mysterious owners are not interested in anyone knowing about anything. In fact, apparently they refuse to discuss its whereabouts or any details about their experience with the cursed painting. Coming in at number 9, the Hope Diamond. As the legend goes, back in 1666, a French merchant obtained this beautiful blue diamond after illegally plucking the gem from a Hindu idol and selling it to King Louis XIV, a sacrilegious crime for which he was apparently later mauled to death by dogs for committing. But fast forward a few years to the French Revolution, and the cursed gem was allegedly stolen again, this time disappearing for years, only reappearing in the 1800s. For years, experts questioned where this jewel had been hidden, but their curiosity was short-lived, as soon the jewel wasted no time ruining lives of those it interacted with, and has routinely been blamed for several tragedies over the years. Some of the misfortunes include the loss of great fortune, people's deaths, and people taking their own lives, while some even say Marie Antoinette's death could have been linked to her possession of the cursed diamond. Nowadays, this cursed object is safely stowed away as a part of the Smithsonian Institution, so let's just hope it's never found and stolen again. Otherwise, who knows what could be unleashed. Coming in at number 8, a cursed phone number. While a phone number might not be a physical object that one could uncover, a cursed phone number is definitely not something that you want to have or accidentally dial. Back in the 1970s, there was a pretty widespread urban legend that many talked about, where if you phoned a specific mysterious phone number from a payphone, a woman with an eerie voice would answer, repeating the phrase, help me, Susie's dying." Apparently this woman spoke in a creepy, monotone voice, and everyone who phoned this number described the exact same phenomenon. But I guess the even more mysterious part of it all is that the actual number remains a mystery, as those that dialed it in their youth can't seem to remember the exact sequence, and because of this, it's grown into more of an urban legend than anything else. However, all that being said, it is still a very unsettling little story, one that we can only hope was all made up by a group of pranking teens, but we will never really know the truth unless someone is able to remember the digits to the allegedly cursed number. Next up at number 7, Robert the Doll. In 1904, a boy named Robert Eugene received a doll as a present from his grandfather. Robert was so excited about the gift that he even named the doll after himself. But almost immediately, his parents felt like something wasn't right. They claimed they would hear Robert speaking to his doll at night, and that a strange voice would answer back. As time went on, Robert got more and more attached, and his parents began noticing that his behavior was changing for the worse. They would notice something strange, like furniture in different rooms or objects scattered around the house. Robert would get extremely defensive and blame everything on the doll. However, things only got creepier as Robert got older. He kept the doll even as an adult, bringing it with him to his new home with his wife. At least by now he had the sense to leave it up in the attic. But still, neighbors that walked past said the doll was always looking out the window and would watch as you walked by, often changing his expression as if it was taunting haunting you. Years later, when Robert and his wife died, the new owner found the doll in the attic and said that every night they could hear eerie giggling coming from above. From there, it said the doll was donated to a museum in Florida, locked behind glass in a museum and hidden from the public. So while it's not impossible to visit the doll, I would definitely not recommend it. Coming in at number 6, a blindfolded doll. In June of 2014, a creepy doll was found on the side of a busy road. The doll was left under a tree, blindfolded by a piece of cloth that was covered in Arabic that read Bismillah, meaning in the name of Allah. And I mean, isn't that just a recipe for disaster? After the doll's discovery, a mysterious post appeared on Reddit claiming that the doll was known to be possessed by an evil entity and that it could walk and even talk on its own. Apparently, the original owner was so afraid the doll was going to kill her or hunt her down if she tried to give it away that she decided to blindfold it to make sure it couldn't see where she went after she left it abandoned. And for good measure, she wrote the Arabic phrase in hopes that it would keep the evil curse tapped within. According to witnesses who found the doll on the road, it mysteriously vanished not long after it was found. And many believe that the curse was passed on to someone who found it and unknowingly removed the curse, trapping blindfold. At the moment, no one actually knows where this cursed doll is, so really, for all we know, it could have made its way to North America to continue wreaking havoc on a whole new group of unassuming victims. So whatever you do, if you see a creepy doll on the side of the road, do not pick it up. Coming in at number 5, James Dean's car. If you aren't already familiar, James Dean was an American icon and actor who tragically died at the young age of 24 in a brutal car crash back in 1955. But what's strange is that many believe the reason his car crashed was because it was cursed. According to the British actor Sir Alec Guinness's autobiography, he had met Dean on September 23, 1955, when after just leaving a restaurant that had no tables, he and his friend ran into James, who invited them to dine with him in the restaurant they had just been turned away from. They gladly accepted the invitation, but first, James wanted to show off his new car, a silver Porsche named Little Bastard. According to Guinness, he promptly warned Dean to, quote, "Please, never get in it. If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." And believe it or not, his prediction came true. Over the years, the car was then involved in several other crashes, and those that owned the car claimed to experience increasingly bad luck as it remained in their possession. However, the creepiest part is that no one actually knows where the car is today. Legend has it that parts may have been sold off to various people, while some believe it was hidden away so as not to take the life of anyone else. But either way, it's one of the most infamous objects with no known whereabouts. Coming in at number 4, Peggy. I can only imagine how many people try to play tricks on paranormal investigators. Truly, I am sure that they receive countless fake cursed objects from people just trying to freak them out or annoy them in some way. But when Jane Harris, who apparently specializes in haunted dolls, received a package in the mail, it did not take her any time to figure out that this one was real. Inside the package was a blonde-haired doll with a note explaining that her name was Peggy and that she was haunted. Apparently, the woman who had mailed it tried seeking out a priest to exorcise the doll, but it was unsuccessful, and the woman no longer wanted the doll in her house as she was starting to fear for her life. Jane began an investigation immediately, posting numerous photos online for feedback. Not a day later, she had 80 emails claiming that the photos of Peggy had made them nauseous or given them intense migraines. Then she got the most frightening message of all. Apparently, one woman suffered a heart attack after looking at the photo. And while she survived, I mean, a heart attack from a photo of a doll is a lot. After just 4 days in her custody, Jane began feeling Peggy's wrath and suddenly became very ill. But when a friend took the doll away, Jane's health improved immediately. Peggy does not like anyone to know much about her apparently, but is known to invade people's dreams and give them haunting news. One woman said Peggy came to her in a dream telling her to watch out for her cat. The next morning, her cat was dead. After a while, the spirit that was trapped in this doll made life very difficult, and so Jane eventually gave it to a museum. Peggy is now locked away under constant supervision and actually requires a waiver before you can see her face to face, which to me just feels like a clear reason to leave her alone. Coming in at number 3, the Conjured Chest. Believed to have been built somewhere around 1830, the story behind this terrifying object all starts with a man named Jeremiah Graham. As the legend goes, he was making preparations for his firstborn, which included this hand-carved chest that had been made by one of his slaves. However, Jeremiah was not initially satisfied with the chest, and the enslaved man Remus received several brutal beatings from Jeremiah, eventually dying from the injuries. Now, for obvious reasons, this didn't sit well with the other enslaved members of the community, and in order to avenge his death, they decided to cast a curse on the chest to forever torment the family that killed their friend. Unaware of the curse, the chest was moved into the nursery, and soon after they began noticing that anytime someone put clothing into the chest, they ended up being involved one way or another in a tragedy, usually resulting in their death. Years later, one woman named Virginia is said to have tried to reverse the curse, enlisting the help of her maid to gather what was needed to put an end to the suffering and death associated with the chest. But it doesn't appear that it did the trick. For a few more generations, the chest continued haunting all that opened it until finally it was donated and hidden far away from the public eye, never to be seen or opened again. Coming in at number 2, the Devil's Rocking Chair. If you're a fan of the Conjuring series, then you may already be familiar with this cursed chair. But in the event you aren't, let me give you a quick backstory. In the early 1950s, the Gletzel family received this rocking chair, but in the summer of 1980, this piece of furniture would play a role in an exorcism so famous they made a movie about it. Long story short, young David Gletzel began seeing visions of what he described was a man with big black eyes, a thin face with animal features, jagged teeth, pointed ears, horns, and hooves. Soon after, David was believed to be possessed by the demon living inside this cursed chair, and that is when Ed and Lorraine Warren became involved. Then in comes Arn Johnson, the fiance of David's older sister, Debbie, who allegedly during the final exorcism told the demon to leave the boy alone and come into him. As legend has it, the demon moved into Arn, who then shortly after was convicted for killing his landlord, stating in his confession that the devil had made him do it. From there, the cursed chair stayed in Ed and Lorraine's museum for many years until Zach Baggin bought it from them. However, in 2019, Zach apparently closed down the exhibit featuring the infamous chair after too many terrifying supernatural encounters. Last up in our number 1 spot today is the Basano Vase. As the legend goes, the Basano Vase was a gift for a 15th century bride on her wedding day. But tragically, the bride never made it down the altar as she was killed the eve before her wedding, still clutching her beloved gift. It's said the bride vowed revenge for never being able to reach the altar and marry, and many believe the curse lives inside the vase, as each member of her family who took possession of it after her tragic death died soon after. But the strangest thing about this cursed object is that it vanished from the public eye for literal centuries. Somewhere between the 15th century and 1988, the vase's location was unknown until it popped up at an auction in Lyra and sold for $4 million. The vase was allegedly sold with a note that read, quote, "Beware, this vase brings death," and the man who bought the vase at the 1988 auction reportedly died soon after. And the next man who bought it was a doctor who died 3 months later. In fact, if the reports are true, the longest anyone has ever been able to withstand the evil vase before succumbing to the curse is 3 months. As of today, it's unclear just exactly where this vase is, and so the mystery of the disappearing vase remains. Let's just hope it's buried somewhere remote and will never be found again. Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you next time.